Spring is in the air, galaxy season is upon us. That means winter is on its way out, along with all the beautiful winter constellations. That includes the very awesome and easily recognizable M42 Orion Nebula. I want to dedicate a video to it because of all the lessons I learned while imaging Orion. And I think as a beginner astrophotographer, those were extremely good lessons that I want to share with you. So please join me, Angus Wong, as we take one final look at Orion and we say farewell to all the winter constellations. You know, depending on who you ask, Orion is special and easily recognizable for many different reasons. You know, people may recognize Orion from their childhood, or, you know, they remember seeing Orion on a special night that they can remember. There are many reasons. I think even non-astronomy related people, they can recognize Orion when they see it. But for me, Orion is special because of all the different lessons I learned while imaging it, and that is especially true now that I'm doing astrophotography. You know, each time I image Orion, either directly or indirectly, I didn't always end up with a good image, but I always walked away with a lesson that I can use and carry over to the next time I image Orion or any other deep sky object. So that is why Orion is special to me, because it just taught me so many great lessons. So my first image of Orion, my very first session, was unplanned, impromptu, and if I have to admit, it's only passable when you look at it from afar, because I actually came out here to pack up for the night, and it was about 4 a.m. But when I looked up in the night sky as I was packing up, I saw Orion's belt. So what did I do? Instead of tearing down my setup, I reassembled, repolar aligned, rebalanced at 4 or 4:30 a.m. in the morning. And I forgot to check my focus. So I'll put a picture of the final image from that session. If you look at it from afar, it's barely okay, but if you were to zoom in, you'll notice that my stars are big and round and fuzzy. So it was out of focus. So the lesson here is that if you're going to start a session at 4 a.m., plan for it, get some rest, so you don't come out all groggy and you forget things. The last thing you want to do is to have an impromptu session at 4 a.m. I'm lucky that I walked away with a blurry image. I could have easily dropped my camera or my telescope or filter. So yeah, impromptu sessions, don't do it. By the way, let me know if you guys have a hard time hearing me, because it's super windy out here. I hope I'm just not picking up wind noise and you guys can actually hear me talk. But the next time I had a chance to image Orion, I was actually really excited because it was a big moment for me that second time around. I was still learning astrophotography. I was learning about dual narrowband filters. And from everything that I looked into and all my research, it sounded like these dual narrowband filters are essentially cheat codes for DSLR and one-shot color cameras. So I got myself an Optilon L Enhance, and I was super excited to try it on Orion because I'm more familiar with Orion. I've imaged it before. I knew how to find it and all that stuff. And when I got the results, I was a little bit underwhelmed because what I didn't know was that these filters will pick up so much hydrogen alpha that, you know, the bulk of your image will turn red. And maybe it's a matter of preferences, but I didn't really like that. I sort of prefer Orion in its natural color and not just red everywhere. So that was another lesson that Orion taught me, was that, you know, filters are great, but you have to understand your object and you have to understand how your filters work. And, you know, don't just throw your object, don't just throw your filter into your camera and expect it to work magically like I thought it was going to on your object. So, lesson learned. Another lesson that Orion taught me throughout the winter season was that if you have the kind of time, try to set up as early as possible so you can hit the ground running once the nightfall comes. And I started doing that because I realized that if you live in a city like I am, you've got to deal with a lot of natural and man-made obstructions. I don't know if you guys can see me in the video, but if you look over here, see those trees over there? Those are my neighbor's trees. And then if you look over here, that's my rooftop and my neighbor's rooftop. And so this view above me, that's all of the Orion that I get throughout the winter season. And also with Orion being as low as it is for my location, it's literally hovering right above my head. So as you can tell, I don't get a lot of time with Orion. So I've developed a habit of just whenever I have the time, I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And that is to set up early. So once nighttime falls, I can get going right away and start my framing, my test exposure, whatever it is, and just maximize my time with Orion. And also, there's a lot to be said about being able to see what you're doing while you're setting up and take advantage of the daylight. Another lesson that I learned while imaging Orion throughout the winter season was that Orion is what most people would call as a high dynamic range target. And what that means is that, you know, you have your usual nebulosity, which is, you know, the really, really faint stuff. But you also have a really, really bright region. In this case, the inner core, the trapezium of Orion. It's made out of 4 extremely bright stars, and it is extremely bright. So when you expose for Orion, you know, you want to capture the faint nebulosity, right? But by doing that, you're overexposing for the trapezium. If you look at my 2 previous attempts, you can see that, you know, the inner core is just a bright white dot. It's way too bright. There's no details to be made. So what I'm going to try to do tonight as sort of my final attempt at Orion to complete the picture is to have extremely short exposure time to just take images of the core, the trapezium, and then combine that separate set of data with my nebulosity data. And hopefully my plan is to both capture the faint nebulosity and also retain the details of the really bright core. Hopefully it'll work. And I'm going to be doing that with my DSLR still. Wish me luck. You know, Orion is sort of the centerpiece of the Winter Constellation. It's the most famous one. It is the most recognizable. But I think for astrophotographers especially if you're a beginner, it's probably one of the most important one, because it is so accessible that you can try many different things on it. You can try using different filters. You can try using different exposure time, and with each different settings, you're going to get different results. So I really recommend that if you're a beginner, take the time to, well, I mean, you can't do it right now because the winter season is pretty much over, but the next time Orion it's available to you, I believe either late October or early November, depending on your location, take the time to experiment with it. Try different exposure time. Try using different filters. Try combining different sets of data, and just use Orion to either test your limit or use it to teach yourself new skills, new processes. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed my sort of farewell to Orion, and I hope that you will enjoy the final image that I have for you. And from this point on, we're moving on to galaxy seasons. So until next time, I wish you good health and clear skies.